Hey guys, thanks for checking out our segment here. This is Rob with itsjetslife.com. For those of you that don't know me, I am a MMA journalist on the website, and this is actually a segment on UFC 175, and we got a couple fan fighter questions coming in from the MMA fan group or fight group on Facebook. So it's a private group. So if you're interested in joining, check it out on Facebook. And it's a good site for MMA. I mean, it's a bunch of MMA fans. So I got a couple questions here, and I'm gonna go over a few things. First question here is from Brandon Hearn, and he wants to know, at UFC 175, which big underdog will pull through with an upset? Wow, that's a tough question. There's a lot of good fights on this card. I mean, let's just start from the top three fights here. We have obviously Chris Weidman, middleweight champion, against Lyoto Machida. For our main event, co-main event, we have Ronda Rousey versus Alexis Davis, and the fight before that's going to be Stephen Struve versus Matt Mitrione. So, for my surprise underdog winning fight here, I have, this is going to sound crazy, I know I'm probably going to get a lot of feedback on this. I think Alexis Davis, I think she might be able to pull through. For those of you that don't know, she is 3-0 in the UFC, and she's training right now at American Top Team. Not sure if everyone's following that, but American Top Team, is the camp that puts out Uriah Faber, Joseph Benavidez, T.J. Dillashaw. Y'all just saw what T.J. Dillashaw did to Hannah Brown. So yeah, I think Davis, I think she's got a shot. I mean, I don't know if she can do it, if she can pull it off, but I think she definitely has a shot to pull off this huge upset. So hopefully some people out there agree with me, and I'm not going to get too much bad feedback on that. But hopefully that answers your question, Brandon. We're going to go ahead and move on. Let's go to a question here from Kenneth Larka. Hopefully I said that right, Kenneth. Alright, your question here is, between Chris Weidman and Lyoto Machida, who has the better stand-up, better ground game, and who would win via submission, KO, TKO, decision? Okay, dang, that's a great question. Alright, so I did a segment on this Chris Weidman and Lyoto Machida fight a couple weeks back. I really do like both these guys. I think that as far as the stand-up game, a lot of people are going to go with Machida right off the bat. Obviously, Machida, for those of you that don't know, he's a black belt in karate. He's one of the first, legitimate karate guys that are able to transition over to MMA and be successful. Obviously, he's had to alter his karate for MMA, but, I mean, he's fast, he's explosive, he's in and out. He can, he's unorthodox, he can punch from anywhere. His takedown defense is great, but as far as stand-up game, I mean, Chris Weidman is pretty legit too. I mean, he's had some pretty vicious knockouts in the UFC. I mean, obviously he knocked out Anderson Silva. I mean, he knocked out Mark Munoz with really devastating elbow. Yeah, I mean, it's close, but based on what we've seen in the octagon, I would probably have to edge towards Machida right now. This fight here could change my opinion, but as far as the stand-up, I'd have to edge it out towards Machida right now. So Machida obviously has won more fights via TKO, and he's fought longer in the UFC. But yeah, that stand-up. All right, Machida. Better ground game, Chris Weidman by far. For those of you that don't know, I did a little research on Chris Weidman, so I'll go ahead and share some of that with you here. Chris Weidman started out as a wrestler, and he, is a two-time All-American at Nassau Community College before transferring to Hofstra, and then he became a two-time Division I All-American and placed third at the NCAA tournament his senior year. And after that, he obviously got involved in jiu-jitsu, and his jiu-jitsu is just ridiculous. I don't know if you guys have seen some of these matches. I mean, he finished the guy with a standing guillotine. He's a legitimate grappler. I mean, he's competed in Grappler's Quest, like after 3 months of training jiu-jitsu, and won for the entire East Coast. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff in jiu-jitsu. Just Google, I mean, look him up on YouTube. Look at some of his looking at some of his matches. I mean, at Grappler's Quest, he won the Absolute division and tapped out 13 guys in the same day. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. I did a little research on Machida. Obviously, Machida is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I don't know if Weidman trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It looks like he probably just does no-gi. But, yeah, I couldn't find anything about him doing... couldn't find a picture of him in gi. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you find one, let me know. But, yeah, I definitely think Weidman's the ground game is ridiculous. I think Weidman's takedowns are phenomenal. His takedowns, his ground game, he definitely has Machida beat there. And I'm pretty sure Machida knows that. Machida's fought well over 10 fights in UFC. I'd say probably close to 15. And he's only won one via submission, you know. And yeah, Weidman, his ground game, so what he did to Anderson Silva. Yeah, his ground game's good, so I definitely give that to his ground game. And honestly, who I think would win out of this fight, I'm a fan of both guys, but I'm thinking Weidman's got this. I think Weidman is somehow gonna find a way to close the distance. I don't think he's gonna do it in the middle of the cage, but I think he's gonna push him, you know, get him up against the cage to kind of close, you know, Machida up against it, and then try to close in for a takedown. And Machida's got great takedown defense, but he doesn't want to be on his back with Chris Weidman on top. I can promise you that. So I think Machida's going to be patient, you know, kind of a lot of times in the fight. The one against Phil Davis was real boring. He's had boring fights, but since his cut to 185, he did finish Mark Munoz, and he had a 5-round war with Mousasi. So we'll see. I mean, this is a refreshing fight. I really want to see the Vitor fight, but I knew that would probably get taken off the card because of TRT. So, yeah, I have Chris Weidman win this fight. I do think he's going to finish, but I think he's going to finish it via submission. I'm thinking maybe guillotine, some submission on the ground. Maybe guillotine or triangle, arm triangle, maybe even a knee bar or a heel hook. I don't know, but I do think he's going to finish him. All right, so hopefully that answers your question, Kenneth. Let me know what you know, who you have winning the fight, and we'll follow up on that. All right, so moving on to a couple questions from one guy named Matthew Olson. He's also part of the group, and he's got some really good questions here. If Chris Weidman wins, will the fans doubt? Will the fans accept him as a legitimate champion? I think so. I mean, I think if you're a true MMA fan and you know, now I'm not saying that Chris Weidman, just because he beat Silva twice, and the second time obviously wasn't what he intended to do. I mean, he checked the kick. You know, he had said in a previous interview, there's an extended coverage on UFC 175, and he said in training camp that he remembers the first fight, Silva kicking him pretty hard in the leg a few times, and he wanted to stop that or put an end to that, so he started checking kicks. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's legal, it's legal. I don't think he's at that level of Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva went on a long run, so I mean, it's going to be hard to put that, you know, behind him, but I mean, he beat him twice in a cage, so he's a legitimate champion. I mean, if you doubt that, then you need to watch a little bit more MMA. Watch some of his previous fights. I mean, he's like the new breed of mixed martial artist. I think if he beats Machida, yeah, I think that will definitely cement him as being, you know, give him a little bit more credibility. I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to that fight. That's going to be a great fight. So let's just think about that for a second. I mean, that's such a good question. I mean, there's actually people out there that just, I guess they're still like flabbergasted that he beat Anderson Silva, because Silva's been this like invincible fighter for so long. I mean, he's went on a 10-year run or something. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But times change, man. People, I am looking forward to Silva coming back, and I think if he beats two people, why not? You know, whoever the champ, he'll get that title fight. And we have another question that Matt asked here, which we're going to follow up on next, or after this question. He has a good question here. This is one that I just actually covered the other day. Metamoris 4. For those of you that are big grappling fans, big, maybe you're a jiu-jitsu guy, you're a wrestler, sambo, whatever it may be. So basically, Metamoris is this competition that Halik Gracie put together. He's the president of Metamoris in general, and he's the grandson of Helio Gracie. So those that you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Helio Gracie is pretty much the grandfather of, as you could say, the godfather of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So do your research on that. So he started this Metamoris. This is the 4th edition, and it's going to be in August. And the headline event is going to be Chael Sonnen versus Andre Galvão. So this is going to be a great fight. A lot of guys got really, you know, pissed off that, like, what's Chael Sonnen? What has he got? But this guy can grapple, man. I mean, he may not be doing a lot of arm bars and doing a lot of super technical stuff, but I think this is going to be a good match. It's surprising, but Halek came out and said that he believes that this is going to be a good match here, and I'm going to quote him with something that he said here, which is pretty interesting. He said, "It was really kind of a perfect fit for him, Sonnen. Be able to say, you know that. You know what? I'm having trouble with the commission in the MMA industry. So it would be a great opportunity for me to do something at Metamoris and have a chance to do something. We figured doing something with someone like Chael versus Andre, that's such a huge stylistic kind of battle there. There's so much to Chael, obviously, the way he approaches his matches and the controversy he brings with his whole style. I think that aside from that, the way he kind of comes through and very suddenly may pull something off, he may come in and really surprise people," end quote. So Gracie went on to talk about he would put a lot of his buddies, his black belts, in a lot of serious trouble, you know, if they roll together. So maybe he's pumping it up, maybe not, but I don't know. I think it's still gonna be a good match. I mean, it's gonna be a 20-minute submission only. It's gonna be a main event, Metamoris 4. So definitely check it out. I think hopefully, you know, it's a good match, and we get to see more of these two guys. You know, Andre's already participated in a few of them, so hopefully we go out there and Chael Sonnen could keep from getting tapped or keep from getting triangled, which apparently he saw a therapist for. But I think he's going to do fine. I think he may surprise people. I mean, even if he does get submitted, I think we're going to realize that, wow, you know, there is something to, you know, his style. Now, there's going to be, I think, a good-sized mismatch. I think Sonnen's probably going to show up about 230 pounds, and I think Andre's probably going to be under 200, but it'd still be an interesting matchup. I mean, that fight alone is a reason for me to order the stream. So go ahead and check it out. I would definitely tune in. Thanks for that question, Matt. Let's go ahead and move on to another one you have here. If Anderson Silva comes back, well, Anderson Silva is coming back to answer that question, but if Anderson Silva comes back and him and Diaz fight, will the loser be cut from the UFC? If Diaz loses, he will be 1-3 in the last 4, and so would Silva if he loses. Okay, that's a good question. I don't think either of these guys would be cut if they lose. I would say their next 2 fights. I think the biggest thing Diaz brings to the table is he's a good fighter. You know, he's had a string of bad luck recently. Obviously, he's had some fights where he's got knocked out, you know, knocked around and, you know, lost. But I think the biggest thing for Dana White, and he's a business guy, he realizes it, is that the Diaz brothers sell tickets. I mean, unfortunately, I hate to say that, you know, because you should just be based off of your skill, how you do, but it's getting to the point now where UFC's so big, it's so large, that it's more than just going in there, you know, kicking someone's ass, getting your hand raised. It's almost like the whole package, you know. So, and I think the Diaz brothers, a lot of people like that style, you know, especially if you live out in California. You ask, you know, hey, you a Diaz fan? Yeah, everybody's a Diaz fan out there. So I think if he loses another one, he probably won't get cut. But I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if those guys are serious about taking fights. There's been so much hoopla surrounding those guys. So it would be cool to see that fight. I don't know if it's going to happen. I know I saw some articles about it, but hopefully that gets set in stone. That'd be kind of cool. It'll probably be a big pay-per-view seller too. Huge, huge, huge. That could probably headline a pay-per-view with you know, no title fight above it. So on to Anderson Silva. No, Anderson Silva won't get cut. I think Anderson Silva could probably lose another 5 fights and not get cut by the UFC. I mean, what this guy has done for the UFC is probably more than anybody has ever done in the past. I mean, after the whole tough one and the tough finale, I mean, the last thing I remember is Rich Franklin being champion and Anderson Silva just destroying him. And Rich Franklin, you know, made a video or made a podcast or video about it that there was just a point where he just didn't even want to fight in a cage with the guy anymore. So I don't know. I don't see Silva, you know, even if he lost this, I don't see him being cut. You know, he had a freak accident against Weidman, second fight. The first fight he lost. But no, this guy would have to lose like 4 or 5 fights. Dana White knows it. Anderson Silva knows it. Right now, it's the ball's in Silva's court. But Dana White, he knows how big of a draw he is. So no, I don't think either fighter will be cut if they, you know, lose one more. But I think the UFC has more to lose if they lose Silva than the Diaz. I mean, they haven't seen Diaz fight. Diaz brothers, Nate or Nick, fight in a while. So people want to see Silva return. So hopefully that answered your question. Let me know what you think about it. Final question here, because we got to get going. Can BJ Penn make another run? Will he win another title? Matthew Olson. That's a tough one. I mean, I think he realizes that he probably has a better shot at 145 than 155. I think 155, he's way too outclassed. I even think 170, he's outclassed. I believe he just fought like Rory McDonald. I mean, that was such a mismatch. I mean, he hung in there. I mean, he fought all three rounds, and he hung in there. Not many guys can do that against Rory McDonald. I mean, McDonald's big. He's a good size 170, and Penn just wasn't. I mean, I think this is the right weight class for him, especially at his age, because he's a little bit older. He doesn't have the muscle that he used to have. He even said that, hey, I'm skinnier, I feel like Bruce Lee. But I think if his best shot is to do it at 145, I don't think he has a shot to do it at 155 or 170. 170, definitely not. 155, I think the competition is a little bit harder, but 145, I think, would be interesting. I think if he beats Frankie Edgar, that would be good. I mean, that would be good for him. If Frankie Edgar beats him, I'd still like to see him fight, BJ Penn fight, but I think he'd have to get through Edgar, and I just don't think he can beat Jose Aldo. There's just no way. And then plus, you know, you have that's a good division. I mean, you got Dustin Poirier, Ricardo Lamas, Cub Swanson, Mendez. I mean, that's a pretty stacked division, so it would be interesting. I'd like to see him hang around for 2-3 fights. But well, hopefully that answers your guys' question. Let me know what your picks are for UFC 175, and we're gonna go ahead and sign out here. If you have any other questions, please let us know, and we can go ahead and answer them. It was nice chatting with you guys, and hope to hear more from you and get some more questions down the road.